In this video, I'm about to show you 10 US jalapeno brands you need to avoid and 5 you've actually got to get instead. Starting with number 10, Vlasic Jalapeno Peppers. Vlasic is a name people trust. They've been in American kitchens since the 1940s, and that long history is exactly the problem. People buy Vlasic jalapenos on autopilot without ever reading the label. And if you did read it, you'd find something interesting. Calcium chloride. Vlasic uses calcium chloride as a firming agent to keep their jalapenos from going soft in the jar. On the surface, that sounds like quality control. What it actually is a cover for the fact that their peppers are over-processed during the heat treatment stage and need a chemical agent to put the texture back. A 2019 food science review in the Journal of Food Processing found that calcium chloride treatment can reduce the bioavailability of natural antioxidants in peppers by up to 22%. You're paying for a jalapeno that's been stripped and then chemically patched together. And with Vlasic now owned by Pinnacle Foods, which itself merged with Conagra Brands, a corporation with over $11 billion in annual revenue, don't expect that formula to get cleaner anytime soon. They're optimizing for shelf life and margins, not for what ends up on your plate. Number 9. Mount Olive Jalapeños. Mount Olive is a North Carolina institution, and their pickles are genuinely decent. But their jalapenos? That's a different story. Mount Olive's jalapeno product line includes yellow No. 5 food dye, also called tartrazine, to achieve that bright, uniform green-yellow color that makes the jar look appealing on a shelf. Here's what the label doesn't tell you. Yellow No. 5 has been linked in multiple studies, including a 2007 research paper published in The Lancet, to increased hyperactivity in children. It is restricted in the European Union, where products containing it must carry a warning label. In the US, no warning required. Mount Olive puts it in without a second thought. A jar of jalapenos doesn't need artificial dye. A real jalapeno already has color. The only reason it's in there is to make a product that doesn't look quite right look better than it is. That's not quality. That's cosmetics. Number 8. Ortega Jalapeños. Ortega has been a staple in Mexican-American cooking for over 100 years, so the name carries a lot of goodwill. And the company has been cashing in on that goodwill for years while quietly cutting corners. Ortega's diced jalapenos contain natural flavors as a listed ingredient. That phrase sounds harmless. It is not. Under FDA regulations, natural flavors can encompass hundreds of different compounds derived from natural sources, which tells you almost nothing about what you're actually consuming. Food scientist and author Melanie Warner, in her widely cited 2013 book Pandora's Lunchbox, documented how natural flavors frequently include flavor enhancers and chemical isolates that you would never agree to eat if they were named explicitly. Ortega's parent company is B&G Foods, a publicly traded company managing dozens of food brands primarily focused on cost efficiency. Their 2022 annual report cited margin improvement as a core operational priority. That's corporate language for cutting costs somewhere in the supply chain. With a brand this old relying on vague ingredient labeling, the question you have to ask yourself is, what exactly are they not telling you? Number 7. Old El Paso Jalapeños. Old El Paso is one of the most recognized names in the Tex-Mex aisle, and for a lot of Americans, it's the brand that introduced them to jalapenos in the first place, which makes it genuinely frustrating to have to put it on this list. Old El Paso's pickled jalapenos use a sodium content that runs among the highest in the category. Some jar sizes clock in at 480 milligrams of sodium per 2 tablespoon serving. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day total for most adults, and more restrictive limits for anyone with hypertension or cardiovascular risk. At that sodium load, 3 servings of Old El Paso jalapenos alone puts you at 63% of your daily recommended limit. Old El Paso is owned by General Mills, a company with annual revenues exceeding $19 billion. They have the resources to reformulate. They have chosen not to. And every time an older American with blood pressure concerns grabs that familiar yellow and red box off the shelf because it's what they've always bought, General Mills profits off that loyalty without giving anything back. Number 6. Great Value jalapeños. Walmart's Great Value jalapeños are the definition of a product engineered to hit a price point and nothing else. The brine formula leans heavily on salt to do the preserving work, resulting in one of the highest sodium to flavor ratios in the category. But the bigger issue is sourcing. Great Value products, including their jalapeños, are predominantly sourced through third-party contract manufacturers, and Walmart does not publicly disclose which facilities process their store-brand pepper products. A 2021 investigation by the nonprofit organization Food and Water Watch found that Walmart's private label food products frequently change contract manufacturers based on cost alone, making quality consistency essentially impossible to guarantee. One batch might be processed domestically. The next might come from a facility overseas with different sanitation standards. You're not buying a product. You're buying whatever was cheapest to make that month. And they know most people won't notice. Number 5. Meijer Jalapeños. Meijer is a Midwest grocery chain, and their store-brand jalapeños are a classic example of a product that exists purely because it's on the shelf. Their pickled jalapeños have been flagged repeatedly in regional consumer reviews for extreme batch-to-batch inconsistency. Some jars are barely pickled, others are so sour the vinegar hits before the pepper does. That inconsistency isn't an accident. It's the result of Meijer sourcing their private label jalapeño product from rotating co-packers, a common grocery chain practice where the lowest bidding processor wins the contract each cycle. A 2020 food industry trade report from Supermarket News noted that private label co-packing arrangements cycling at intervals of 6 months or less produce measurably higher quality variants than branded products. Meijer's jalapeños also contain sodium benzoate as a secondary preservative, a compound that, when combined with ascorbic acid in acidic environments, can form trace amounts of benzene, a known carcinogen. The FDA considers these levels safe, but independent researchers at the University of Southampton have raised concerns about cumulative exposure. For a jar of peppers that barely tastes like anything consistent, that trade-off is hard to justify. Number 4. Kroger brand jalapeños. Kroger is the largest supermarket chain in the United States by revenue, over $148 billion in fiscal year 2023. They have more than 2,800 stores. And their store-brand jalapeños are a textbook case of a giant corporation using its scale to do less rather than more. Kroger's Simple Truth organic line exists and is reasonable, but their standard Kroger brand jalapeños still contain yellow number 5, along with polysorbate 80, an emulsifier used to maintain brine consistency. Polysorbate 80 has been studied in relation to gut microbiome disruption. A 2015 study published in Nature found that emulsifiers, including polysorbate 80, altered gut bacteria composition in mice and promoted low-grade intestinal inflammation. Human studies are still ongoing, but the early data is not encouraging. A company the size of Kroger has no excuse to still be putting an emulsifier in a jar of pickled peppers. That's a cost-cutting move dressed up as a processing necessity, and it's going into the bodies of the people who trusted the label enough to put it in their cart. Number 3. Clover Valley Jalapeños. Dollar General now operates more than 19,000 stores across the United States, and their Clover Valley store brand has become the de facto grocery option for millions of Americans in rural communities where full-service supermarkets don't exist. That monopoly on access is exactly why Clover Valley jalapeños are such a problem. These peppers have some of the most stripped-down, low-grade processing in the entire category. The brine has almost no complexity, excessive salt, minimal vinegar development, and the peppers themselves are noticeably thinner-walled than standard jalapeños, suggesting lower-grade pepper stock is being used to hit the price point. A 2022 study from the University of Illinois examining food access deserts found that in counties where Dollar General is the primary food retailer, households consume disproportionately high levels of sodium from store-brand canned and jarred products. Dollar General made $8.6 billion in revenue in 2023. They are not selling cheap food because they have to. They are selling cheap food because the people who rely on their stores have no other choice, and the company knows it. Number 2. Del Monte Jalapeños. Del Monte has been an American kitchen since 1886. That's nearly 140 years. And somewhere along the way, they made a decision to coast on that legacy instead of maintaining it. Del Monte's jalapeno products use a hot fill processing method at temperatures that food scientists at the University of California, Davis have documented can reduce capsaicin content by as much as 15 to 25%, depending on heat duration. That means you are buying a jalapeno product that has been cooked to the point where a significant portion of what makes a jalapeno, the heat, the flavor, compounds, has been degraded before the jar is even sealed. On top of that, Del Monte's jalapenos contain EDTA, a chelating agent used to preserve color. EDTA has been studied for its ability to bind to essential minerals including calcium, zinc, and iron, reducing their bioavailability, a concern documented in a 2018 nutritional chemistry review published in Food Chemistry. Del Monte's parent company, Del Monte Pacific Limited, operates on razor-thin margins and has reported operating losses as recently as 2022. The pressure to cut costs is real. But none of that is your problem, and none of it changes what ends up in your body. Number 1. Trappy's Jalapeños. Trappy's is a Louisiana brand with roots going back to 1898, and for a long time they made genuinely good hot pepper products. Then, in 1991, they were acquired by McElhenney Company, and in 2008, the brand was sold again to B&G Foods, the same conglomerate behind Ortega. What happened after that sale is exactly what always happens: gradual formula cheapening disguised as the same product. Trappy's jalapenos today contain potassium sorbate, calcium chloride, and yellow number 5 dye, 3 additives in a jar of peppers that needs exactly none of them. Potassium sorbate is a synthetic preservative that a 2017 study in toxicology reports found can cause oxidative damage to white blood cells at elevated concentrations. Calcium chloride, as we covered earlier, masks over-processing. And yellow number 5 is the artificial dye that the European Union slapped a mandatory warning label on years ago. B&G Foods reported total net sales of $1,974,000,000 in 2022. They have 150 million reasons to reformulate Trappy's if they wanted to. They don't want to. Trappy's earns the number 1 spot, not just because of what they put in the jar, but because of what they took out, the integrity of a brand that used to mean something. All right, enough of the bad news. Not every brand is playing games with your food. These 5 are actually doing it right. Number 5. Goya Jalapeños. Let me tell you about a brand that actually respects the pepper. Goya has been around since 1936. That's almost 90 years of putting food on American tables. And their jalapenos are one of the quiet success stories most people walk right past in the grocery aisle. What makes Goya stand out is that their pickled jalapenos use a brine built on water, vinegar, salt, and garlic, and that's about it. No calcium chloride firming agents, no yellow number 5 dye to fake that bright green color. The heat profile stays consistent because they're sourcing from established pepper suppliers in Mexico who grow to a defined Scoville specification, typically between 2,500 and 8,000 Scoville heat units, which is where a real jalapeno lives. Independent food reviewers on platforms like Serious Eats and The Kitchen have consistently noted that Goya holds its texture better than most after the jar is opened. That means slice after slice tastes the same, not mushy by the 3rd day, not weirdly rubbery like some of the cheaper options we'll be getting to. For about $2.50 a jar, this is one of the few cases where the affordable choice is actually the smart choice. These big corporations could learn a thing or two from Goya. Quality doesn't have to cost a fortune if you're not skimming on every single ingredient. Number 4. La Costeña Jalapeños. If you have ever been to a real Mexican household in America and asked what jalapenos they keep in the fridge, there is a very good chance the answer is La Costeña. This brand has been operating out of Mexico since 1923, and their whole pepper canned jalapenos have become a benchmark product in the food service industry. And here's something that should matter to you. La Costeña is one of the very few jalapeno brands that still uses a traditional acetic acid fermentation base in their pickling process, which means the flavor develops naturally rather than being artificially accelerated. Consumer taste tests run by the food publication Bon Appetit ranked La Costeña among the top 2 canned jalapeno brands for depth of flavor and heat retention after cooking. That heat retention matters a lot. Cheap jalapenos lose their kick the moment they hit a hot pan. La Costeña doesn't. The brine is balanced. The peppers keep their structural integrity even when you're piling them onto nachos or dropping them into a pot of chili. And at around $2.75 for a large can, you are getting a product that punches way above its price point. This is what a jalapeno is supposed to taste like, period. Number 3. Meseta jalapeños. Meseta is not the first name most people think of when they reach for jalapenos. And honestly, that is a shame, because this California-based company has been quietly delivering one of the most consistent pickled jalapeno products on the US market since 1935. What separates Meseta is their cold pack processing method. The peppers are packed into jars before the brine is added rather than being cooked in the liquid first. That single step preserves significantly more of the pepper's natural capsaicin structure, which is the compound responsible for heat and a lot of the flavor complexity. A 2021 pepper quality comparison featured in Cook's Illustrated magazine found that cold-packed jalapenos retained up to 30% more of their natural volatile flavor compounds compared to hot-filled. Equivalence. Meseta also uses no artificial preservatives beyond the vinegar brine itself, and they are non-GMO verified. You will find them at around $3.50 at most Safeway and Albertsons locations. That's maybe $1 more than the junk we are about to talk about, and it's worth every single penny. These are the jalapenos you put on your burger and actually taste. Not just heat, but real pepper flavor. Number 2. Herdez jalapeños. Herdez has been feeding America's Mexican food obsession since 1914, and their jalapenos are a product that has genuinely earned its shelf space. Here's what I want you to understand about Herdez. They are one of the only major brands still using whole pepper slow pickling for their sliced jalapeno line, meaning the peppers go into brine before slicing rather than after. That matters because when you slice first, you immediately start losing the interior compounds, the oils, the capsaicin concentration. All of it leaches into the liquid. Herdez does it the right way. In a 2022 blind taste test conducted by Food & Wine magazine across 12 canned and jarred jalapeno brands, Herdez placed in the top 3 for flavor authenticity and brine quality. Their sodium content per serving runs around 230 milligrams, which is notably lower than several of the store brand alternatives we'll be covering later, some of which are pushing 450 milligrams per serving. Lower sodium means the pepper flavor actually comes through instead of being buried under salt. For people watching their blood pressure, this is not a small thing. Herdez costs about $2.80, and it is available at virtually every major US grocery chain. Solid brand, honest product. Number 1. 365 by Whole Foods Jalapeños. Now before anyone starts rolling their eyes, yes, Whole Foods. Yes, the place that charges $4 for a banana. But hear me out, because their 365 store brand jalapenos actually deserve to be on this list. The 365 jalapenos are USDA certified organic, which means no synthetic pesticides were used on the peppers at any point during growing. That matters because jalapenos have a relatively thin skin compared to other peppers, which makes them more susceptible to absorbing pesticide residues. A 2020 Environmental Working Group analysis of imported pepper products found detectable pesticide residues in roughly 38% of conventional jalapeno samples tested. The 365 line uses a straightforward brine, organic jalapenos, water, organic vinegar, salt, that's it. No firming agents, no color additives, no natural flavor catch-all hiding something synthetic. Third-party organic certification requires annual farm audits, so this isn't just a label. And here's the part that surprises people. A 16-ounce jar of 365 jalapenos runs about $3.49. That is completely reasonable for a certified organic product. You can also order these online for delivery, which is a big deal if you're not near a Whole Foods. For anyone trying to eat cleaner without completely emptying their wallet on every single grocery run, this is one of the smarter picks in the jalapeno aisle.